It is Friday, the 14th of March. The slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We will persevere until we succeed. It is in our future. It is in our destiny. If we quit, whatever we're doing in life, stick with it. Good morning, everybody. Hope everything is going tickety-boo for everybody. Dan and I are continuing with our little introspection about Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And today we've chosen two of the points that we've both agreed on. And one of them is the point that Napoleon Hill makes about fear-based institutions, religion, schools, governments, all this kind of stuff. It's all about ruling by fear. Whether it's a government that tells you if you don't pay your taxes, you're going straight to hell or jail, or whether it's religion, a religion that invented confession to be able to see what's going on and to be able to rule the classes, the people that were in their jurisdiction. So fear is one way of, I don't like the word motivating, but one way of getting people to do stuff or not to do stuff through fear. So, we've often heard, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, people said, put the fear of God into you. Whoa, okay, I'm going to do it. I promise to do it. Promise to be a good boy. So we also look at fear as something that is, it's a motivation to make us do or not do certain things. It's one of the points that Napoleon Hill is talking in there. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, we all fear different things, but we're brought up fearing things. Unfortunately, that's like a common response and a common thing that we go through as we're growing up, as we're starting to develop, and it's part of that developmental process. And unfortunately, it leads into adulthood, and it can really affect what you're doing, how you're doing it, and whether or not you're going to reach your goals. And the other concept that he talks about in the book is definiteness, discipline, and positive habits. And these three things lead to freedom. So how many people on this call can say that they know exactly what they want? How many people on this call can say they know exactly the steps they need to take toward it? How many people on this call can say that you have self-discipline, that you've mastered your thoughts, that you've mastered your emotions, that you've mastered your habits? We talked a little bit about drifting, just going through life and taking things as they come and not really having a definiteness of purpose, or having this fear-based thoughts that keep you from doing things. These positive habits that you take. We were talking to Dee Dee right before the call about her positive habits. Every morning she gets up and she goes for a walk. Every time we're on this call in the morning, she's on a walk. Not every day, but most days she's on a walk. And she's very disciplined with that. It's a positive habit that she does to get her day started. And, it's a definiteness of purpose. She's taking her dog for a walk because her dog wants to go out for a walk. That's the purpose. And so, we always need to be working on these things, this definiteness, this discipline, these positive habits that are going to lead to freedom and success. And the positive habits need to be things that are driving you and supporting your success. So some of the steps you can take, if you haven't, is, write down your goals, review it daily, put it somewhere prominently on your wall, in front of your computer, where you look at it multiple times a day as a constant reminder. Develop a daily routine that supports your success. Think about what you want, think about how you're going to get there, write those things down, and then develop your daily routine based around that. My daily routine is I get on Facebook first thing in the morning, or LinkedIn first thing in the morning, and I comment on people's posts. And then sometime in the afternoon or early morning, I'll post something. And then those people are going to reciprocate since I commented on their post. And it boosts me up the algorithm. And then I can post something that's going to help me reach success or reach my goals. So that's part of my daily routine. Part of my daily routine is looking at my calendar as well. What do I need to get done today? What are the things, the number three things that are going to help me reach my goals, that are going to help support my success today? So you have to have short-term goals, you have to have long-term goals. What's your goal for today? What's your goal for this week? What's your goal for this month? What's your goal for the next 6 months? What's your goal for the next year? And develop those habits that will help you get there. And it's not really that difficult. I mean, there's five important characteristics of success. Discipline and consistency. There's more than that, but these are the top ones for me. Discipline and consistency, resiliency and adaptability, having a growth mindset, and that's why we're here every Friday, having a strong work ethic and action orientation, and emotional intelligence and relationships and how you manage those things. Right? So think about those things. Stay disciplined even when that motivation fades. And that's why these calls are important, because your motivation is going to fade. I don't care who you are. Your motivation is going to fade on an hourly basis, on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis. So you need to learn to stay disciplined and create habits that are going to keep you disciplined. So the reason that this all matters is because success isn't just a one-time event. It's the result of consistency and creating consistent habits that are going to lead to success over time. And that discipline is so important because it helps you resist the temptations that lead to drifting. Right? If you write it down, if you know exactly what you need to do, if you create those daily habits that are going to lead to your success and your freedom, and you don't drift, that's discipline. Right? And then discipline's important because all you need to do with discipline is just be consistent with discipline over time. Lawrence?
So, yes, Pastor, I agree with you. Today's your day, man. You're on fire. So, actually, a couple of things you said, which many things, obviously, all of it was good, but some things that we, you know, getting back to the book for a second, this thing about fear. We're taught in school that we have to follow the curriculum, we have to follow the system, we have to follow the teacher. And that's all. And if we don't, we'll fail. And if we don't follow the system and if we don't follow the teacher, oh my goodness, we'll fail. We'll be sleeping under a bridge. So even that is something that requires us to have the courage of self-belief. And then you've got to apply things like the discipline, things like the focus and consistency and these things. But the first thing we've got to have is the courage of self-belief and the courage to understand that we don't have to follow blindly in school and in college. We don't even have to go to college today. I mean, seriously, a lot of people have shown the way of just having their own open mindset and their creativity. And that happens when you fail. A lot of people will, which is the next point we want to make, but I just want to finish on this one and to say that we need to get rid of any fear of anything. The fear is all in the mind. It doesn't exist. It's just imaginary. So the best thing we can do is to believe in something, go for it. For example, I never learned to use algebra or trigonometry or calculus in my life after I was in school. What the hell what was that for? Didn't have any use. But nobody taught me street smarts. That's more useful, but we had to follow the system. And it was a fear of, oh my gosh, I have to learn this. Why? because it trains your mind. It makes your mind more open and stuff. Okay. But is that useful? Is that something that's going to really help me in life? Well, it will be if I want to build bridges, but certainly not helping in anything else. So the belief in yourself is the first thing. And then when you do something and you fail, it's the best thing that can happen because failure will will take away your ego. When you're successful at something, then you start to build your ego, your arrogance, and you start thinking you know all the answers. And excuse me. And it reminds me that the when I got into this business, the person that got me in, I was the very first person that he talked to, very first one. And within a week, in those days, I had invested $5,500 in this business. And he thought, my gosh, this is easy. Oh, this is easy. And because he thought it was easy, he had that kind of feeling of self assuredness based on only one bit of success. And within 3 or 4 or 5 months, he was out of the business altogether because that is not how you go forward by success. You go forward when you learn from failures. And when you learn from failures, you start to be creative and say, there must be a better way. What did I do wrong? How can I do it better? How can I make this, how can I improve this? And it's when we start introspecting from failures that we start to grow and we start to improve and we start to be better. And the learning from experience, from failure, leads to, curiosity. It includes the fertility of the mind. We start to be more creative and stuff, and we start to be more positive based on experience. And negative experience is great. I think it's a very, very useful thing. Very useful. And for example, we look at our business and we say, well, um, what's the biggest asset we can acquire? It's in our learning of how to talk to people. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think it was written in the 50s or something, years ago. Still very valid. How can I be a better person? How can I improve my skills? How can I improve my listening skills, more important? How can I not make it all about me? So, people buy from someone they like. And it's about improving ourselves from our failures, learning from the failures. And I embrace the failures. I think it's a great thing. But we've got to have the resiliency to be, and which is the other one that Dan was talking about, resiliency, to get up and say, okay, why did I fail? I didn't fail because I'm useless. I failed because I made a mistake. What was the mistake? Okay, let's fix it.
I
And
just
yeah,
thought of something when you were talking about failure, and I don't even know if this makes sense, but it sounds good. Failure is an ordinary result of extraordinary people, right? It happens to everybody. And it happens even more to extraordinary people because they're willing to accept failure, learn from it, and move on. Get up from that failure. I don't know. Does that make sense?
yes, 100%.
Okay. All right.
Not,
So I also love what you talked about learning to talk to people, right? But even more importantly is learning to listen to people,
yes.
right? I was recently listening to a podcast with an undercover CIA agent, and he shared two acronyms that they used in training to build trust with their contacts. Because we need to build trust with our prospects, with our contacts, right? And I think building that trust is even more important than presenting the business. We need to create that trust first. So the acronyms are WAIT, WAIT. Why am I still talking? Right? We need to be listening. The second one is WAST, WAIST. Why am I still talking? How often do we enter a room or a Zoom call with an agenda? we're ready to explain, instruct, sell, move on to the next prospect. But are we listening to the person, or are we just blabbing? Are we just telling them about the opportunity? You know, or are we just waiting for our turn to speak? Sometimes we're not even in listening to people because we're thinking about what we want to say next. I'm super guilty of that because as I get older, I'm too scared that I'm going to forget what I was going to say. So, the most important part of this is connecting with people, right? And developing a relationship and developing trust. You know, are we making them feel heard, valued, respected? And it doesn't stop with the prospects. This is everybody in our life. Are we listening to our teams? Are we listening to our significant other? Are we making sure they feel heard, valued, and respected?
It, it just my thought disappeared in that second. The thing about oh my goodness, as you said it, my mind went somewhere else. So
You weren't listening.
I was particularly listening. That's why my
Oh,
mind went
okay.
somewhere else, and that's why I was
Okay.
focused on you and not on me. See, there's an example. It's about you. What I was going to say was it's about leading by example. If you have, if you lead a life and you say and you do, excuse me, you do what you say you're going to do, that's integrity. And that's when people start getting respect for you. If you're somebody that's reliable, dependable, you say what you're going to do, you show up when you say you're going to, you're punctual, everything that is what we like to consider to be the moral code of doing the right thing and being true to yourself, and you follow that path. For example, well, I can't say that because it goes into a tangent, but it's important that we are true to ourselves, we walk our talk, we lead by example. We don't have to tell anybody what we do. People will see it. People will see it. If you weigh 400 pounds and you're trying to tell people to lose weight, you have absolutely no credibility. But if you are somebody like, for example, Joe lost 45 pounds. He's going to correct me, and it was 46.3 or something, but 45 pounds um, because he put his mind to it. Now, there's a guy with credibility. How did you do it? Wow, I want to do it too. I didn't lose 45 pounds, but how did you do that? Where was your methodology? So, we look at the leaders that we've got and how did you do it? For example, we've got the possibility of going on these trips. I've just seen Mike's come up here. Anybody that's got on a trip, how did you do it? What did you do? So the integrity and the credibility of showing up every Wednesday, Mike and John Swart, Mike Cook and John Swart have a call for the doctors. Very, very, very important. It's for everybody. That is credibility, that's integrity, that is caring, that is being there as a team member for everybody. Everybody. And come rain, shine, whatever. Every Wednesday, you can count on a doctor's call every Wednesday where we can all recruit. We can all recruit on that call. That is leading by example. That is integrity. That is where we have confidence in who we are talking with and listening to. And so, the Monday, Wednesday call, Mansi on a Wednesday, and Kent with a K, Cash with a K, and with Scott on Mondays, and you guys on the call on Fridays. Thank you. But it's integrity for you guys to show up too, because we're here to combine our strengths and to make things happen.
I like to think that we're the cherry on the top of the entire week with all these meetings that we have because, they're all talking about the business, but without the right mindset, you're not going to be successful in your business. I don't care what you do. Without the right mindset, without the discipline, without the resiliency, it's going to be very difficult to be successful, right? So, these calls are important, and Lawrence and I, our metric is how many people show up, and our even bigger metric is how many people show up consistently. And we're attracting people to this call because I think that it's important, and I think that we bring some value to everybody. And because of that, we were at 10 or 12 people a few years ago, and now we're almost triple that. And we got excited about it a few months ago when the AI scribes came out, and then we realized that half of them were AI scribes. But now we're at a point where there's no AI scribes on here, and we have 35 people on the call, right? And so we're attracting the right kind of people who need to feed these nutrients into their brain, into their habits to be successful, in what they're doing in life. And so, I love that we've attracted the right people. And this business is all about attraction, right? We want to attract people to our community. We want to attract people that have similar thoughts and similar skills, and they want to grow personally, because this is about personal growth. If you're not interested, I wasn't interested in personal growth 5 years ago. I didn't care. I just went out and did my medical device sales job 7 days a week, 18 hours a day or 16 hours a day, whatever it was. I didn't even think about personal growth because I didn't need to. But when you're an entrepreneur, when you're, learning something new, you need to nourish your brain. You need to nourish your discipline, your habits, and learn from people who have been doing this. I mean, I've said this before. One of the major mistakes I made when I got into this was I thought I could do it all myself. And I didn't need anybody else because I had been in sales for 20 plus years, and nobody was going to tell me how to do sales. And it's been a learning process. And until I decided that I was going to accept the help of Michael and Lawrence and Joe Scalia and Martin Forster and all these other people, I wasn't successful. And so when I bring new people on today, the people that I attract, I tell them right flat out, I'm like, look, I don't need you to learn anything about the scanner. I need you to watch a 2.5 minute scanner video. I need you to know enough about the scanner that you can explain it to somebody in 30 seconds and get them on a call with me. That's all you have to do. I'm trying to simplify it. I don't want them to think that they have to take months to learn something, right? Because that just creates fear. It creates stagnation. There are obstacles. It creates excuses. And we don't want that. We want people to move forward as quickly as possible and start introducing us to people that are maybe interested, attracting people that are interested in what we're doing.
And something that's huge, everybody on this call, it's either 6:30 in the morning in your time zone or 9:30 in the morning in another time zone and anywhere in between. This is prime time for everybody in their busy lives, going to work, getting dressed, making breakfast, whatever everybody does. And yet you've taken the time to consistently be on a call. So people can listen to the recording, obviously, and a lot of them do, of course, on Facebook and so on. But I want to acknowledge you all for being on the call, because I really respect your time for carving out this time to be on a call and to be with us. And for that reason, also, we would really, really like some input from you. We'd like you to comment about whatever you're thinking. This is not this is not a talking to people. It's about talking with. It's about getting comments from everybody. What did you think? Have you make any comments, please, because this is what it's about as well.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Yeah, I thought it was 100 pounds that Dr. Joe lost, but I could be wrong about that. But anyway, yeah, integrity for me, you guys talked about that. Integrity for me is doing the right thing, whether or not somebody's watching you or not, right? Whether it's, doing this business, just being a good person out there. And, the other thing is that, you guys talked about discipline and forming good habits, right? So I challenge everybody on this call, what is one good habit, or what is one habit you can remove that would create more discipline or for yourself, or move this business forward for yourself? So, me hanging out with Lawrence a lot these past 6.5 years, I picked up a sweet tooth. So I need to watch the sweets. So I'm going to take conscious effort to eat less sweets this week. So I encourage everybody to do that as well. The sweets or something else.
Well, now I know where I got my sweet tooth if I think about it. Thanks, Lawrence. So a lot of people have heard my story. I accidentally placed my first scanner with the doc. The first conversation I had with a doctor, I placed a scanner. It was Dr. Arturo Lizano. You probably, if you were on the call last Wednesday, you saw him. But that created an expectation, as Lawrence was talking about with the person that introduced him to it. The thing with me is I had other businesses, and it took me a while. I started out with this part-time, but you make course corrections as you move along. They're not failures, they're course corrections. If it depends on your personality. If you're a successful person and you make a mistake, you don't just say, this is not for me, it's the end of it, and completely change directions. No, you just alter your course a little bit. You look at a habit that's not working for you, like John just mentioned. I mean, we see this. If you think about this, we're seeing this every 3 weeks right now. Rockets are going up and they're exploding. Does Elon Musk say, I'm not doing rockets anymore? No, he makes the small changes, and as a result, he's going to be successful. He knows it. I know it. I think everybody knows it. But a lot of people, they see a rocket go up and say, "Oh, this is never going to work." He's already, broken so many records and done impossible things. And, he's got the mindset that I'm going to keep doing this, making the small course corrections until I make it work. And that's what I had to do, when I started really focusing on this business. I made mistakes. Lawrence knows the story. I walked into a practice and they said, yeah, come back. You can talk to all the doctors next week. Come back for lunch on Tuesday. And I was real excited. I called Lawrence. I said, I'm going to be in front of all these doctors on Tuesday. And he explained, did they say lunch? And I said, yeah. I said, you realize you're bringing lunch to everyone. That's how naive I was, but I called and I said, listen, this is my business. I don't have an expense account. I'm not going to do lunch. And they said, okay, then don't worry about it. And I didn't go back there. But, those are the small course corrections that we make. We don't fail. We make little errors that we can correct and move it forward.
On that subject, Michael, remember we also told them that you need us more than we need you.
This is true.
And that if you really want to learn something, you can buy us lunch.
That's true. And what Lawrence is referring to there, if I can be so bold, is they're inundated with pharmaceutical and med device reps that are trying to sell them something that they're not going to make any money off of. They need it in their practice. They're just, they can switch from one drug to another, but that's not something that's going to bring value to their practice. What we have brings value, actual cash income to the practice. So they're assuming we just have another product that they're using anyway and trying to switch from one manufacturer to another, something like that.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody else got a comment? Anybody else got something to add? My dog is actually adding quite a lot over there. A lot to say. Nobody else? Trainer, what happened?
I didn't die, I promise.
Okay.
It's just that between Mike and even John Schwartz's humor, I've just been typing like a madman. But just thinking out loud, you guys cover so many great topics, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we're at a juncture right now. We're sitting right here at a juncture. We're going from what is currently a $4,000 investment with $137 a month lease payment to a consumer product that costs between $300 to $400. We need to find the absolute best way to keep our platform going, but to learn to expand it and to truly learn to take advantage of what the company's giving us, because they really are giving us a great opportunity. And so that takes a lot of what you guys are talking about. You know, you can look at something like this and say, oh my gosh, they're moving it all. I can't take this anymore. I'm going home. I'll just be in retirement, or whatever you're going to do. Or you can say, oh my gosh, the mindset, oh my gosh, this is the best opportunity we've had in 20 years. And then you have to set yourself to work to figure out how you can personally take advantage of that. And that's where you lean on people like Dan and Lawrence and Stephen and Scott, because they know exactly how to do it. They know how to pivot. They know how to take advantage of it. And we all need to just be on that team and roll with it. That's it.
Exactly. Yep.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. All right. Well, no more excuses then. Let's get to work. Anybody got anything else you want to add? Gone.
All right.
Thanks everybody for being on the call. Appreciate your
Have a
time.
wonderful weekend.
Have a great weekend. Yeah. God bless. Take care. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.